Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Wanda Curley, your authority on project, program, and portfolio management. Happy New Year, and I'm glad to be here for our first podcast for 2019. Things that you should know. This year is the 50th anniversary for PMI. They're telling us there's going to be great things that they're going to that will be offered in this year. So I'm looking forward to it, and as I hear what it is, I will let you know. So without further ado, let's get going here. I've got 3 articles that I'm going to talk about today. 2 are on technology, because technology is affecting project management as it's affecting all industries. And then the last one will be on projects that are failing, why projects fail. So let's get on with the first one. The first one is from Singularity Hub, and it's called AI Will Create Millions More Jobs Than It Will Destroy, and here's how. So we keep on hearing that AI is going to replace humans and will destroy all of the different jobs that we have this now, but that's not true. When you think about everything that's been brought into the industry and as far as technology, it does impact employment, but it creates brand new jobs. So one of the things that Singularity Hub says, this has sparked a discussion about how AI will impact employment. Some fear that as AI improves, it will supplant workers, creating an ever-growing pool of unemployable humans who cannot compete economically with machines. Well, with AI and AR, we're going to be able to learn things faster, as I brought up in one of my last articles last year, is that AI and AR will allow us to actually get experience through AI and AR in different areas that we want to be employed in. So this will be something that will create new jobs. So this concern will understandably is unfounded. In fact, AI will be the greatest job engine the world has ever seen. So new technology isn't a new phenomenon. Think about when the internet was brought in 30 years ago. They said that it would destroy jobs. Well, it did, but it also created new jobs. The new jobs were marketing, data analysts, people that do internet jobs. So it created a whole new jobs. So radical technological advances aren't a new phenomenon. No, they're not. Technology has progressed nonstop for 250 years. And in the U.S., unemployment has stayed between 5 to 10% for almost all that time. Even when radical new changes like steam power and electricity came on the scene. So we had new jobs with those created. Think about it. You don't have to look back to steam or even electricity, just look to the internet. As I was mentioning, go back 25 years, well within the memory of today's pessimistic prognosticator, to 1993. The web browser Mosaic had just been released, and the phrase surfing the web, the most mixed of metaphors, was just a few months old. And when you think about it, we thought that all of these jobs would go away, but as it is, it created new jobs. So the rise of artificial intelligence, then along came a new and even bigger technology, artificial intelligence. And we've heard the refrain over and over and over again, it will destroy jobs. But think about ATMs. When ATMs, automatic teller machines, came on, it said that it would destroy teller jobs. Well, it didn't. It actually created new teller jobs, because what happened, banks found that it was easier to create bank sites. So when they were creating bank sites, they had to create new teller jobs. So actually it created more teller jobs. So in this manner, AI will create millions of jobs that are far beyond our ability to imagine. For instance, AI is becoming adept at language translation, and according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, demand for human translators is skyrocketing. Why? If the cost of basic translation drops to nearly zero, the cost of doing business with those who speak other languages falls. Thus, it emboldens companies to do more business overseas, creating more work for human translators. AI may do the simple translations, but humans are needed for the nuanced kind. Yes, creating a translation is great, but sometimes the translator on the web or with AI doesn't understand the nuances of the different areas. For example, English for American English and British English is a little bit different, and those nuances would not be captured by AI. So in fact, the BLS forecasts faster than average job growth in many occupations that AI is expected to impact. For example, accountants, forensic scientists, geological technicians, technical writers, MRI operators, dietitians, financial specialists, web developers, loan officers, medical secretaries, and customer service representatives, to name a few. These fields will not experience job growth in spite of AI, but through it. But just as the internet, the real gains in jobs will come from places where our imaginations cannot yet take us. So parsing pessimism, you may recall waking up one morning to the news that 47% of jobs will be lost to technology. The report by Carl Fay and Michael Osborne is a fine piece of work, but readers and the media distorted their 47% number. When the authors actually said is that some functions with 47% of jobs will be automated, not that 47% of jobs will disappear. In fact, they actually said that 65% or a higher probability of jobs that would be created. So we got to understand what we're reading when we hear things that says job loss. So embracing AI in the workplace. A January 2018 Accenture report titled Reworking the Revolution estimates that new AI combined with human collaboration could boost employment worldwide as much as 10% by 2020. So capture those 10% by 2020, and it'll be jobs that we can't even think about. This is how free economics works and why we have never run out of jobs due to automation. So keep that in mind, that automation is here to stay, and it will be creating new jobs, and it will also be destroying older jobs, and we have to be able to change the way we think and be able to train ourselves for new jobs. So what are some of the surprising technology breakthroughs of 2018? So Singularity Hub also has a university, and it went to some of its professors to ask what they thought about the new technologies for 2018 that we saw. And so in digital biology, and this is in different areas, Dr. Tiffany Vora is faculty rector and vice chair digital biology and medicine at Singularity University. And her answer was CRISPR babies. I knew it was technically possible, and I spent 2 years predicting it would happen first in China. I knew it was just a matter of time, but I failed to predict the lack of oversight, the dubious consent process, the paucity of publicly available data. So I'm not convinced that this counts as a technical breakthrough, since one of the girls probably isn't immune to HIV, but it sure was a surprise. So Andrew Firstman is co-founder and CEO of 1Qubit, is also faculty of quantum computing. So in the area of quantum computing, he said there were 2 last-minute holiday season surprise quantum computing funding and technology breakthroughs. First, right before the government shut down, and that's the U.S. government, one priority legislative accomplishment will provide $1.2 billion, that's with a B, in quantum computing research over the next 5 years. I think that's amazing. And read the Gizmodo profile on an exciting startup in the space to learn more about the type of quantum computing. In energy, Ramez Nam, chair of energy and environmental systems at Singularity University, he said that 2018 had plenty of energy surprises. In solar, we saw unsubsidized prices in the sunny parts of the world at just over 2 cents per kilowatt hour, or less than half the price of new coal or gas electricity. In the U.S. Southwest and Texas, new solar is also now cheaper than new coal or gas. But even more shockingly, in Germany, which is one of the least sunny countries on Earth, it gets less sunlight than Canada. The average bid for new solar in a 2018 auction was less than 5 U.S. cents per kilowatt hour. Can you believe that? That's as cheap as new natural gas in the U.S. and far cheaper than coal, gas, or any other new electricity source in the most of Europe. In fact, that's amazing to me. So think tank carbon tracker calculates that over the next 10 years, it will become cheaper to build a new wind or solar than to operate coal power in most of the world. Global Grand Challenges. Darlene Dam, Vice Chair, Faculty, Global Grand Challenges, Singularity University. In 2018, we saw a lot of areas of global grand challenges move forward. Advancement in robotic farming technology, cultured meat, and low-cost 3D printing housing. More sophisticated types of online education expanding to every corner of the world. Remember, I said AR would bring in new technologies in education, especially online education. So I think we're seeing changes in almost every industry that you can think of. But what most surprised me was to see young people, especially teenagers, start to harness technology in powerful ways and use it as a platform to make their voices heard and drive meaningful change in the world. Business strategy. Pascal Finette, Chair of Entrepreneurship and Open Innovation, Singularity University. He says, Pascal, without a doubt, the rapid and massive adoption of AI, specifically deep learning, across industry sectors and organizations. What was a curiosity for most companies at the beginning of the year has quickly made its way into the boardroom and leadership meetings and all the way down into the innovation and IT department agenda. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. You are hard-pressed to find a mid to large-sized company today that is not experimenting or implementing AI in various aspects of its business. And I absolutely agree with Pascal. You hear about it in every part of industry. Robotics. This comes from Hod Lipson, Director of Creative Machine Labs at Columbia University. The biggest surprise for me this year in robotics was learning dexterity. So we have seen robots work, but their dexterity has been limited. But for decades, robotics have been trying to understand and imitate dexterous manipulation. We humans seem to be able to manipulate objects with our fingers with incredible ease. Imagine sifting through a bunch of keys in the dark or tossing and catching a cube. And while there's much progress in machine perception, dexterous manipulation remained elusive. So this is coming on, and we're seeing robots that are able to do that. The next one is machine learning by Jeremy Howard, founding researcher at Fast.ai, founder, CEO, analytic, faculty data science, Singularity University. The biggest development in machine learning this year has been the development of effective natural language processing. The New York Times published an article last month titled, Finally, a Machine That Can Finish Your Sentence, which argued that NLP, neural networks, have reached a significant milestone in capability and speed of development. The finishing your sentence capability mentioned in the title refers to a type of neural network called language model, which is literally a model that learns how to finish your sentences. Can you imagine a machine that can finish your sentences? Earlier this year, two systems, one called Elmo is from the Allen Institute for AI, and the other called ULMFit was developed by me and Sebastian Reuter, showed that such a model could be fine-tuned to dramatically improve the state of the art in nearly every NLP task that researchers study. That's amazing to me that machines will be able to answer our or finish our sentences for us. It's kind of mind-boggling to me. Digital manufacturing from Andre Wegner, founder and CEO of Authentize, chair of digital manufacturing, Singularity University. Most surprising to me was the extent and speed at which the industry finally opened up. While previously only a few 3D printing suppliers had APIs and knew what to do with them, 2018 saw nearly every OEM, original equipment manufacturer, enabling data access and, even more surprisingly, shying away from proprietary standards and adopting MT Connect as stalwarts such as 3D systems and Stratasys have been. So we're seeing more of that. GE's announcement with most major software players to enable integrated solutions, EOS's announcement with Siemens, and many more. So we're seeing more companies collaborate with 3D printers, companies and OEMs to get things going in the 3D printing area. And I think we're going to see that. Can you imagine having a part fail on your let's say your screen cracks on your smartphone. Can you imagine being able to print it at your home or going to a area and having them print a new screen for it and put it on? So to me, that's amazing. And before we know it, we'll be able to go into a cellular store, and when we want to buy a new phone, it will be printed for us there. They won't have to keep it in stock. Robotics. So the next one is by Pablos Holman, inventor, hacker, faculty, Singularity University. Just 5 or 10 years ago, if you'd ask any of us technologists what is harder for robots, eyes or fingers, we would have all said eyes. But robots have extraordinary eyes now, but even in a surgical robot, the fingers are numb and don't feel. Stanford University robotics researchers have integrated fingertips that can feel, and this will be a kingpin that allows robots to go everywhere they haven't been yet. Blockchain. Nathana Sharma, blockchain policy law and ethics faculty, Singularity University. 2017 was the year of peak blockchain hype. 2018 has been a year of resetting expectation and technological development, even as the broader cryptocurrency markets have faced a winter. It's now about seeing adoption and application that people want and need to use rise. An incredible piece of news from December 2018 is that Facebook is developing a cryptocurrency for users to make payments through WhatsApp. That's surprisingly fast mainstream adoption of this technology, and it indicates how powerful it is. So I'm going to go over two more. That's artificial intelligence and neuroscience. So let's talk about artificial intelligence by Neil Jacobstein, Chair of Artificial Intelligence and Robotics at Singularity University. I think one of the most visible improvements in AI was illustrated by the Boston Dynamics Park Hour video. This was not due to an improvement in brushless motors, accelerometers, or gears. It was due to improvements in AI algorithms and training data. To be fair, the video release was cherry-picked from numerous attempts, many of which ended with a crash. However, the fact that it could be accomplished at all in 2018 was a real win for both AI and robotics. Neuroscience. Divya Chandler, chair of the Neuroscience Singularity University, 2018 ushered a new era of exponential trends in non-invasive brain modulation. Changing behavior or restoring function takes on a new meaning when invasive interfaces are no longer needed to manipulate neural circuitry. The end of 2018 saw two amazing announcements: the ability to grow neural organoids, that's mini brains. Can you believe that? Mini brains were grown in a dish from neural stem cells that started expressing electrical activity and mimicking the brain function of premature babies. And in the first known application of CRISPR, we talked about that before, to genetically alter two fetuses grown through IVF. Although this was ostensibly to provide genetic resilience against HI infections, imagine what would happen if we started tinkering with neural circuitry and intelligence. I hope we have a lot of ethics boards involved with that, because that could get totally out of hand if we don't have ethics involved. So let me switch browsers here and go to Chrome, and let me talk to you about why IT projects continue to fail at an alarming rate. And this was done by Business and Strategy by Dick Ismail. Company-wide efficiency growth stems from seamless IT team deploying, not destroying, projects in a timely and configurable manner. And the biggest roadblock lies in custom coding. For some reason, we're just about every modern organization is scrambling to harness its potential or digital technology to get a competitive edge, whether it's to improve the speed of delivery or scale of the business initiatives. But in the UK, they were wasting 37 billion sterling a year on failed agile IT projects. Can you imagine that? 37 billion sterling a year on failed projects. Here are a couple of reasons IT projects continue to fail at an alarming rate. So he has one: out with the old and in with the new. One of the first challenges CIOs face when making changes to legacy systems is that they have been customized with thousands of lines of code. If this original developers have left, it's almost inevitable that something will go wrong when their code has to be changed. In fact, the single biggest barrier to successfully deploying modern enterprise software is custom coding. It is time-consuming, expensive, and fraught with problems that include both bugs, communication errors between the business and user. The solution is low-code and no-code platforms. These allow IT to build. 5 indicators of failing IT projects and what you can do. Instead of waiting months to deploy a project that might not even come to fruition, low-code and no-code platforms empower IT to perform teams to circumvent the challenges associated with code-heavy platforms. A powerful case for this was ENKI, a provider of managed cloud computing services, which was dealing with unacceptably slow customer response. After six-man months and writing 50,000 lines of custom code, the problems remain. So casting about for a solution, the IT team tried out a no-code platform. They were stunned to find that they could replicate all the NetSuite customizations within just 10 days. Infrastructure assessments. So this is the second item. A commonly overlooked digital transformation pitfall, is especially for fast-growing companies, is the condition of a company underlying IT infrastructure. It is common for IT teams to build in capacity for expected usage peak numbers. However, IT teams need to plan for at least 4 times the expected peak. Business intelligence, the business case behind successful IT projects. Needless to say, despite the huge costs of failed digital projects, not only in releasing hoped for business outcomes, but also in terms of low-cost productivity and morale, few small or mid-sized organizations have the resources or inclinations to invest in the best practices. I would be careful with best practices, because best practices in one industry may not be good for yours. So understand what you're doing with best practices. Another advantage of low and no code platforms is they tend to have much fewer infrastructure requirements. So you need to take those all into consideration. So let's talk about some platforms that actually failed in 2018 and will continue to fail in 2019. And the first one that was the United States over the New Year's holiday period. For a second year in succession, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection computer system experienced an outage that left thousands of passengers across the United States waiting in long lines to clear customs. This time the outage was only for about 2 hours. Last year it was for 4 hours, and affected 13,000 passengers on 109 flights, according to the Department of Homeland Security Inspector General report. Let's see, the DHS IG report indicated that the 2017 New Year's problem was caused by an inadequately tested software change related to the CBP's long-running IT modernization effort. I'm going to guess that that was the same reason that we had the outage this year, because they're not understanding what they're doing with their platform. They're putting out old platforms, they're sunsetting old platforms and bringing on new platforms, but not adequately testing them. No official cause or total number of passengers or flights affected has been given for the latest CBP computer hiccup. However, an IT modernization related is a likely culprit, given that a September 2017 Homeland Security IG report assessing the state of the Customs Department's IT system and infrastructure indicated that the main CBP computer system used to screen international passengers has seen its performance greatly diminished over the past year as a result of ongoing efforts to modernize its underlying system architecture. To me, that is not good news. And the reason is because we just passed in the United States the IT modernization infrastructure. So we're going to be seeing a lot of platforms being modernized. And with this, we're seeing that we can't handle this because we're seeing it in the Customs Department. The few hours of distress suffered by international travelers, however, is minuscule in comparison to the tens of thousands of Canadian federal government workers who are now facing a third year of payroll system torment. We actually talked about this earlier in the year about this Canadian federal government system. And what is quickly moving into contention as one of the worst government-managed IT implementations ever. Over half the 290,000 plus civil servants paid through the IBM-developed Phoenix pay system have been underpaid, overpaid, or not paid at all since its rollout began in February of 2019. Government records show that as of November 2017, there were some 589,000 payroll-related transactions still awaiting processing. Can you imagine that? 63% of its workers had outstanding pay issues as of 1 November 2017, with 15% having 3 or more outstanding problems to contend with. According to Canada's Auditor General, nearly 50,000 government workers have had to wait over a year to get their pay straightened out. Can you imagine having to get your pay straightened out and waiting over a year? A major objective of the Phoenix system, which traces its history back to 2009, was to save the government 70 million Canadian dollars per year through reductions in payroll processing overhead and staffing costs. However, things have not turned out as planned. While the original cost of the project was pegged at 309.5 million Canadian dollars, Public Service and Procurement Administrator Carla Qualtrough, who is now in charge of the project, admitted in November that it might cost as much as 1 billion Canadian in 3 or more additional years to completely fix the system. The additional costs include hiring hundreds of new payroll staff, including some of the 2,700 laid off when Phoenix was introduced to try to sort out the system. So the pain has been acute for thousands of public workers who have received less than their correct salary, but those thousands who have been overpaid have not escaped misery either. For this latter group, the government delivered a New Year's surprise. Notice that they will have until 31 January 2018 to pay back on any overpayments they received. If they don't, they have been told that they will have to pay back not the net salary overpayment after taxes were taken out, but the gross salary overpayment that the workers received. Can you believe that? They then will have to wait to claim the differences back on their personal income tax filings in May, with refunds coming who knows when, to say the least, demanding money that they did not receive and further complicating their tax returns has not made the affected government employees very happy, given that most have already spent months trying to get their pay straightened out to no avail. So if you think this is a disaster, the Canadian Phoenix payroll system debacle is not the world's only long-running government IT fiasco. The state of Rhode Island has been having its own troubles with $364 million of Unified Health Infrastructure Project, UHIP, public assistance program that it rolled out in September of 2016 with great fanfare. UHIP was intended to save the state millions of dollars per year by, again, reducing processing and staffing costs. Again, it did not. However, because of a myriad of operational problems, the cost of UHIP is now pegged at $492 million. That, again, $492 million, not counting the $85.6 million credited back to the state by prime contractor Deloitte. Deloitte should be ashamed of itself. As a point of reference, UHIP was originally slated to cost about $110 million and $135 million and be ready to go live in April 2015. Since its debut, the barrage of significant errors in UHIP has meant thousands of Rhode Island's neediest families have not received the public assistance payment they were eligible for. Many benefit-eligible families have waited 3 months or more before finally getting public assistance. Flaws in the system will still keep showing up. Last October, for example, it was discovered that thousands of applications for benefits were never processed. This is just amazing to me. Being informed why they were losing their Medicaid coverage as required by federal law wasn't done. Due to one of the lawsuits Rhode Island finally had to accept last autumn, a federal district court appointed special master to oversee the system and try to make it work properly. The hope is later this year, UHIP will finally begin to operate reliably. That's amazing to me that they can't get that done. It seems that doing it manually would be more effective, but again, it probably wouldn't have even cost them more. Phoenix and UHIP have a few more things in common beyond costly, long-lived IT disasters. Both went live against expert advice, according to investigative reports into the Phoenix and UHIP. The reports indicate that senior government officials were not only naive about the inherent complexity of their systems development and overly optimistic about their respective systems' readiness to go live, but their decision-making was largely driven by a desire to generate those beneficial cost savings as soon as possible. Now, predictably, those cost savings will never, ever be realized. Can you imagine that? Wanting to get it done on schedule, because they wanted to get those cost savings and it ended up costing them more. We need to be realistic about IT implementations. We need to scrub data, old data, because if you don't scrub the old data and try to bring it into the new system, all you're going to have is disasters. In addition to poor performance of both systems have caused material public harm, which in turn has created political firestorms, forcing senior politicians in both governments here and in Canada to publicly apologize for the fiascos. It has forced resignations of senior government officials who were originally in charge. The surviving politicians in both governments have also naturally tried to shift the blame for the problems in Canada's case to the previous government and in Rhode Island's to the contractor. In truth, both operational failures were the end product of dedicated team effort. And finally, both government politicians have solemnly vowed that real lessons have been learned and these errors won't be repeated, which means, of course, they haven't and will be respectively. So it's sad to think that lessons learned aren't passed on to other governments. And as I said, it scares me that we're going to have disastrous cost overruns here in the United States because the IT infrastructure is going to be updated throughout the government. And that means there's going to be huge IT implementations. So beware, government, especially if you're a project manager in Deloitte or GE or any of the big four companies. Be careful because you're going to have disasters. Siemens and all of them are involved with these. So while I'm optimistic for 2019, and I'm glad that we're going to have these IT infrastructure updates, and we'll see them throughout the year, I hope that we have lessons learned and that they're passed on to the other project managers. So my hat's off to you if you have done this. A boo to you if you have not. I am Wanda Curley, your authority on project, program, and portfolio management. This is brought to you by PM Powered, a consulting company for project, program, and portfolio management. Please follow me on PM Current, and please go to PM Current and follow me on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. I'd love to have you understanding what I have to say, and look at my previous podcasts. I'd love to see what you have to say about them as well. If you disagree with anything that I've said, please contact me at wanda@pmpowered.com. I'd love to hear from you. If you've been a project manager on one of these failed projects, again, I'd love to have your perspective on the projects, because I know there's fault on both sides. It's not just on the contractor side, although they take much of the blame. Again, I'm Wanda Curley. Thanks. Have a happy new year, and I look forward to speaking to you throughout this year.